Hi everyone, welcome back to NIB. This is a relationship series, and this first video is about managing relations during COVID and lockdown. This is with our volunteers and most importantly, Sonal Bavadekar Ma'am. Thank you for being with us today and making sure that everything is in the right place. Thanks to you.
Thank you, Maitreyi. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you.
So we can start with questions directly. Abhishek, you can go.
Yes. First of all, welcome, ma'am. So
Thank
my
you.
first question to you is, how do you handle relationships during the lockdown period?
Okay. So, ironically, to begin with, most couples were really happy when the lockdown happened because they got all the time in the world to spend with each other. So, initially, the first few days were fantastic. But then later, as the work from home turned into constantly working and there was literally no space available, I think extensions to the lockdown made things a little difficult. So, the happy bubble started crumbling. So, apart from domestic violence per se, couples have woken up to the fact that being together 24 by 7 is very, very challenging. When we have work, we step outside our homes, whether it's to talk to people or otherwise. Uh, we're literally dealing with our frustrations so that they don't come down on the home front. But right now, with we are literally getting under each other's feet. There are a lot of frustrations. Arguments are not getting centered because one thing leads to another, and it just goes on and on and on and on. So there's just no finishing. So I can also see a lot of couples moving away from each other because they don't know how to address this. So they feel that it's best to just keep quiet. So a few things that I can recommend and kind of suggest is the first thing is to create clear boundaries. No matter what the size of your home, you need to maintain clear workplace boundaries. So distance yourself from work when you're offline. Resist the temptation to actually check your messages or your emails once you're logged off. I know it's difficult, but if you make an effort, it is possible. Also, if you have any kind of work frustrations, it's a great idea to share that with your work buddy or somebody who can understand it, or maybe just journal it so that you don't project all of that frustration and anger onto your family. Right? So anxiety, everybody is feeling that uncertain, it will not have impact on the home front. The second way to deal with the relationship is to basically park disagreements. We all disagree with things that happen. Disagreements are a part of our lives. But if you actually step back from a disagreement, cool down, and then address it, you can stop yourselves from saying things that might literally break a relationship or be extremely mean. So basically, communicate in a way that is structured. Take time to calm down and then address an issue, and stop communicating if you're digressing. So you don't really have to address each issue every time. It's okay if you're just dealing with that issue which is there. The third and most important thing is space. I mean, I cannot harp on this enough. All of us need space no matter what our relationship status. So invest in walks, hobbies, or even some self-care me time on an everyday basis so that you don't feel smothered or suffocated. Yeah, so that is important. And the fourth thing that I would like to recommend is to create fun spaces together. What we ignore is a very important thing of connecting with each other. So even if you're married or in a relationship, you need to create spaces where you can be with each other. I mean, chores, kids, in-laws, parents, work is going to be there. But you need to create spaces where you can connect each other without gadgets. So most of the time, I keep telling people that you need to take at least 30 minutes off every day from your gadgets and from other interferences. This way, you can maintain emotional intimacy, understand each other, show the person that you feel valued, safe, and protected. And there could be very small ways of, telling your spouse that you love and care about them, like making tea for them, or leaving just a small post-it note with a favorite quote, or just sharing a simple memory while you're at work, so you feel that connect. So basically, we need to understand that sharing the space in the healthy manner will not only keep you together, but will also be able to address whatever anxiety and uncertainty that COVID is bringing into our lives.
But how do you manage relationships that are long distance for a long period of time? So not just, during the lockdown, for a very, very long period of time.
Yes, I know. So acronym that fits here perfectly, Maitreyi, is CASHIN. And CASHIN literally stands for communication, accept and adapt, space, honesty, intimacy, and nurturing. So coming to communication, communication is key and very much so in long distance relationship because that's the only connect that you have. So what we need to understand is that the 24/7 connect is not required. Initially, yes, when you're getting to know each other, you have that 24/7 constant messaging. And when that reduces, couples usually feel that, oh my God, my relationship is in trouble. So actually, that is not the case because it has been replaced by probably more calls or more structured kind of a conversation, right? Texting
Basically,
24/7 can also make calls very awkward.
basically
Yes, Maitri,
it's called
sorry.
the honeymoon period, right? So when that's over,
So when that's over, everybody feels that, okay, my relationship is gone. So yes, I completely agree that the post that is when you have to really deal with communication. Many times arguments escalate over texts. So one of the things that I basically swear by is that if you have an argument, do not do it over a text. Make sure that you schedule a time for a call, if not immediately, sometime during the day to discuss it because non-verbal cues are as important as verbal cues, right? There are a lot of things that are happening that you may not really know when the person is simply texting you, right? Another thing is to basically begin an argument with I feel rather than you did this and this is what it made me feel, right? You're being very threatening. And in a long distance, that makes it worse because you don't know where the person is coming from. The second thing is accept and adapt. Now, each person is wired differently. Some people require constant reassurance that you exist and the relationship exists, but some are okay being connected on and off. Right? So you need to accept your partner's views and adapt to them rather than complaining to them all the time that they are not communicating with you. Right? Don't keep texting all the time. Yes, you can bring up your concerns if you feel that the partner is not being there for you. You can definitely address that, but sometimes it feels like you're oversharing, right? And the partner needs to realize that each person comes from a different perspective. Sometimes their experiences of early relationships, childhood problems, or whatever it is may keep them from kind of being there in that space. So you need to accept that and respect the circumstances that your partner is in before expecting them to make you a priority, right? The third thing is space. Now you have lots of space in a long distance relationship in terms of physical space, but you need to really improve the emotional space that you're giving each other, right? You don't have to hound each other all the time. If you keep hounding the other person, they will find reasons to literally disconnect and get very irritable. So you need to understand where the breaking point is. Fourth is honesty. Now, trust is something that is very important in every relationship. But in long distance relationships, per se, it becomes even more important because you don't know what's happening on the other side. So, you need to be really honest about your fears, your insecurities, your thoughts, your ideologies, and where you want this relationship to go. This will basically help you understand how vested the other person is in the relationship, as well as whether he or she is the right person for you. So this is especially true with new relationships, but with relationships that have taken longer, the honesty needs to continue. You need to still share if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling left out, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling angry. You need to be connected and you need to discuss all of that. Then comes intimacy. Like I said, physical intimacy might be difficult because you're apart, but you can definitely work on emotional intimacy. So share your lives with each other. Understand what your partner likes or dislikes. Discuss your idea of a perfect date or a perfect marriage or your future. Where do you see yourself? Build a connection with your partner. And of course, if both partners are in a relationship where they're comfortable with sexting, then that is definitely something that you can explore over a secure connection. But these heart to heart talks will basically combined with the flattery, the flirting, and the fun basically be the real sealant of the relationship. And last but definitely not the least is nurturing. Every relationship requires nurturing. And the nurturing can be in the form of virtual date nights, could be in the form of dressing up for special dates, playing online games, cooking together, watching Netflix series together by just getting popcorn, and then you just sit together and you catch up on a movie. Express your feelings for each other. It could be through songs, it could be through just small post-it notes that you can click and send. Or there's so many ways in which you can express that you really care or you miss that person, right? Don't overdo it, but at the same time, invest in a relationship. Invest in what you have never done. Explore things that your partner says are amazing, but you've never really explored them. Be open to that idea. Be open to sharing your lives with each other, because there are lots of things that you can do online and virtually, right? And most importantly, now this is something that we all need to adhere by, is establish a routine of contact that is consistent but not always constant. Yeah, so that's very important.
Right.
Yeah, so talking about communication, what do you think is the most important thing about communication? Why is it important?
What isn't important about communication? I mean, in any relationship, communication is literally the most important thing. Why? Because if you communicate openly and honestly, there'll be fewer misunderstandings. There'll be fewer situations when you will have to, have major arguments or have trust issues, right? Communication also helps you to understand where the person is coming from, because each one of us has different perspectives, has different circumstances. So if you don't communicate, how do you talk to each other? How do you connect? All of these Hindi serials that we look at, all of them have this angle where there's something that is hidden all the time. And then when that comes up, there's like this ha 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 moment that happens, right? So that
Right.
is exactly what communication is. If you communicate and are honest and open with your partner, you are not going to have those moments when you feel cheated or when you feel overwhelmed, right? The more you talk or discuss your issues, concerns, your insecurities and fears, the better your partner will be able to understand you and support you. If you don't open up to your partner, you cannot expect your partner to magically understand what's going on in your mind. A lot of people say that, Ki, how did you not understand this? Right? And you're like, okay, but you did not tell me. I'm not a mind reader, right? So it's important to communicate. It makes you aware of different ways in which a person might think, and it also makes sure that you are there for that person when that person actually needs you, right? So that is why communication is very important.
But how do we deal with trust issues? So it's very easy to say that communicate. It's very easy to say that be honest. But there will be points where you won't be able to do that because of your other commitments or work or different schedules. So there will be a point where trust issues arise. So how do you deal with them?
So when it comes to relationships, trust gets built over time. You don't just come to a place where you start sharing your life with somebody. It is going to take time to come. So what we have to realize is that if it's a new relationship, the person is still trying to figure out where things are going. So it's okay to question the person if you feel that there is something that is going wrong, right? It also gets built over communication and honesty.
Hmm.
Yeah. Be honest if you feel like you're unable to trust your partner, or if you feel that they're hiding something, because that's when they will get an opportunity to say their bit. Right? So that's again very important. And these conversations might seem like a lot of effort, but this is the only way that you can deal with trust issues because you're far apart. Right? So the only thing that you have basically is whether you trust the person or you do not. And the more evasive the person is, the more the person hides, or is emotionally unavailable or is avoiding the issues, that should tell you these are the red flags. Those should be the red flags that you should look out for when it comes to trust.
Yeah.
So that is something that is very important.
You know, people always talk about compromises in a relationship and how they are important. So, according to you, how much compromise is enough?
So this is a very difficult question, Abhishek, because everybody compromises on different things and different levels. So we cannot really say sitting here what is a good compromise or how much compromise is enough, because most people, the compromise comes from a place where they feel that the relationship is important to them or the need for the relationship is important for them. So they are compromising on the basis of that. So all relationships require little compromises. I mean, it's ridiculous when people say that I did not make any compromises or I'm not going to make any compromises, right? Compromises are a part and parcel of life. But yes, the 4 red flags that I would say that you're compromising too much are: one, the compromise is one-sided. All the time it's coming from one partner and never from the other. There are no comparisons in relationships per se. It cannot always be 2:2, but it should not be that I am compromising on 10 things and then my partner is compromising only on one. So that's not how relationships work. Post making the compromise, if you feel that you're not like, you don't trust who you are, or it goes against what you inherently believe in, then that's the second red flag. The third would be if it affects you mentally or physically, it makes you feel weak, ashamed, or guilty, then it's not a good compromise to make. And the fourth and most important, that you resent your partner for having made the compromise, and that is creating problems not only for you because you are having mood swings and anxiety or depression or outbursts, but also your relationship is suffering. So that's when you really need to worry about whether the compromise that you've made is really not good enough. So sometimes compromises need to be made for reasons that are beyond our control. Like, my spouse shifts to a different country and I have to shift with him or her, right? So that is something that you need to do. But if it continues to trouble you and the compromise is something that can be controlled, then you can bring it up with your partner and you can discuss that you are feeling that it is only you who's doing that, right? So these were the 4 red flags that probably you can think of when it comes to compromise.
And how do we understand a partner's emotional availability?
Okay. So, I read this quote the other day, which explains this beautifully. The wrong person makes you beg for attention, affection, love, and commitment, while the right person gives you these things because they love you. The where ways might be different, not necessarily as expressive as you want, but that does not mean that they don't care or love you, right? So the signs that a person exhibits emotional availability are: one, they are there for you in the moment that you need them. Okay, of course there might be other circumstances that might stop them from making you a priority, but most of the time when you need them, they are there for you, right? If they cannot spare a moment to talk to you, they will schedule a call and they will make sure that they listen to you. Listening and not just hearing, which means that they are not only able to remember what you have shared, but also understand why you shared it and where you're coming from. They understand what is being unsaid, right? The emotions behind it and why is it so important. Third, they're ready to see how the relationship will unfold. They're ready to kind of share their insecurities with you. They're ready to understand where you are coming from. It's never a one-way street. Secrecy and evasiveness especially indicates unavailability, right? And you need to call it out. Most importantly, being emotionally available means having the openness, trust, and willingness to share the good and the bad parts of you. That is very, very important. One more thing that I would like to add is that a lot of people become emotionally unavailable because of past experiences, either with their relationship or with friends or with their parents. So if you do feel that that person is emotionally unavailable, do have a discussion with them and try to understand why they are emotionally unavailable. And probably you might be the person who might help them become emotionally available. right? So it's not that you just give up on a person. If you really like that person, you can take the time to make them emotionally available with trust and patience and listening.
So how to provide a comfortable environment for sharing?
So it is only when a person feels heard and safe that they will actually open up to somebody. And this is with all relationships. You know, a friend just slams the door into our face. Obviously, we are not going to be comfortable sharing with them, right? So if you want to create a comfortable environment for sharing in a relationship, you need to be a patient and non-judgmental listener. Your views might be different, but you need to accept where the person is coming from. You need to accept that the person, it has taken a lot for that person to actually come up to you and say something, right? So you need to respect what is being shared, understand and trust that is still getting built into the relationship, and most importantly, not push the other person to share, right? Most of the time, because we are scared, we push the other person to kind of into, feeling intimidated by oversharing. So that is one thing that you have to understand, that it's only when you're comfortable, when you communicate with a body language which is open, which is full of concern, which is full of respect and understanding, that's when that person will open up and share with you. Yeah.
So people tend to overcommit. So don't they realizing that they're hurting themselves in the end?
So what do you mean by overcommit, Maitreyi?
So in a relationship, just one person tends to, give time, schedule time to talk, or maybe, understand the other person every time. And one of them is just being okay with it and going with the flow. So one person is committing a lot compared to the other person. So in the end, it might become like a extra compromise, like we talked about some time ago. So in that perspective.
Okay. Yes. So honestly, no. They don't realize that they're hurting themselves because for them it's not overcommitment. It is simply being present and doing whatever is needed to make a relationship work. For them, the sacrifice, tolerating inconsistency, or just being there for that other person whenever that person needs them is just a way of strengthening the relationship. So people who overcommit or push their partners are those who feel that they need to do this to maintain a relationship, and if they don't, then the relationship will not work. Right? They feel that their husband or their spouse or their partner, whoever, will not understand them. Right? So either because of previous experiences or because of childhood experiences. So Mark Twain said, never to allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option. I think we all need to understand this when it comes to overcommitment.
So regarding breakups, is there a need for a mutual breakup?
That would be ideal, right? I mean, both people decide one day that no, we don't want a relationship. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. So every person has the right to end a relationship that is no longer making them feel happy or valued. What is important though is to be honest with your partner about why you want to break up, where this is coming from, and also not to ghost them out. You know, they may not understand you or agree with your perspective, and obviously they'll be really angry or upset about it, but they deserve to know what wasn't working because that will bring them closure, right? Even if it is a long distance relationship, the breakup must happen over a video call and never over a text. So that is one thing that is very, very important to remember. So no, it does not have to be mutual.
And in the end, how do we handle breakups well?
A very interesting question. I mean, I'm sure we all struggle with handling breakups one way or another. So basically, what we need to understand is that even though the breakup isn't mutual, both partners might be equally upset at the end of a relationship, although they might not show it outwardly. Handling it well does not mean that you aren't sad or you have moments of doubt, right? Getting over a relationship requires a lot of time and a lot of grieving because we've invested a lot in the relationship in terms of time, effort, love, and care. So each person's recovery time is difficult. One of the best ways of dealing with a breakup is to understand Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grieving. So according to her, when we lose somebody, we pass through these 5 stages, which is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So you basically move, it's a journey where you move from a place where you're like, okay, this did not happen. I just misheard something, to being angry, to bargaining and saying that, okay, maybe, you know what, I'll change myself, but let's still do this. Or to the depression part where you're continuously crying and pessimistic about it, to the acceptance part. So, most importantly, a way to basically heal from the breakup is to acknowledge and permit yourself to feel all the emotions that you're feeling. Right? Most people say snap out of it. That's not possible. Right? Heartbreak brings a lot of self-doubt and negative self-talk, like, you know, I will never be good enough, or nobody will love me, I do not deserve this, maybe I shouldn't have let them go. Remember that this is okay. Right? Remember that somebody not wanting to be with you is not because you aren't worthy of the love and care. Sometimes we fit, sometimes we don't. That is just how life is. Right? So love yourself despite the breakup. Quite frankly, we are working on letting go of the person, what the person made us feel, rather than who the person is. You can always hold on to the good memories because erasing them is impossible. Slowly change the focus to yourself. You know, start journaling, writing about what is worrying you. Think about your beautiful memories. Think about what upset you. Think about how you have changed as a person, and if you like who you are. If you're not, work on getting that done. You know, work on getting a better version of yourself. Take up a new hobby, coursework, exercise, practice self-care in terms of maybe dancing or anything that helps you to vent all of those emotions, as well as, you know, get you to sleep or to eat better and all of that. Most importantly, don't focus on reconnecting with your ex or changing the outcome. Resist the urge to stalk them, trash them on social media, playing the blame game, having casual hookups on the rebound, or, you know, constantly pinging your ex for attention. Right? And something that we forget is to disconnect from toxic friends. You know how these friends in common circles are, they keep telling you, oh, you know what, your ex has moved on. You know what, your ex is doing something different. Right? So one of the ways is to just disconnect with them and tell them that, you know what, I don't want to associate with you right now. So everybody grieves differently, and unfortunately, time is literally the only healer. So once you decide that you need to move on, you need to work on forgiving that person, because you need to understand that sometimes good things fall apart so that better things can fall together. Yeah.
So
Yes,
this is
so
like,
on ending note, we can say that relationships are a two-way street, constantly under construction. They
Yes.
require love, nurture, respect, trust, acceptance, and honesty to pave the way towards happiness and fulfillment.
Absolutely, Abhishek. That is true.
yeah, thank you for being here with us, Sonal ma'am, and thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Maitreya.
Maitri.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Abhishek.